What is going on, guys? It is your boy TKD, wanted to hear back in your place and source, and this is of course episode 3 of Road to Ghost of Tsushima, the weekly series leading up to release of Ghost of Tsushima, PlayStation 4's last big major title, its swan song, if you will. With me, of course, my luxurious co-host, the Arachnid. How are you doing, good sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. You know, I'm recovering mentally from part 2. You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
We did the review of Last of Us Part 2. Again, spoiler free. If you'd like, that was uploaded yesterday. Make sure to check that out on the channel. And then next week we will be doing the spoiler cast, the good old spoiler cast, which I may have a few guests on. You know,
Ooh.
It might be just us two. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see. You'll have to check next week. And so this episode, of course, episode 3, Ghosts of Tsushima, Road to Ghost of Tsushima, we are going to be talking about the whole topic around the ghost versus the samurai, right? From a historical point of view and a gameplay perspective as well. But before we get into that, right, in a few episodes, we do have the prediction / bets episode, right? And I thought at that, wait, actually no. So I was thinking about flipping the last 2 episodes to accommodate for the Metacritic, but unfortunately, we will not have to do that because I don't know if you saw, but the review embargo for Ghost of Tsushima is lifting on the 14th of July.
3 days before release, right?
Yes. I'm scared. Look, I'm still confident, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit scared.
Why are you concerned about that?
Because typically, you know, now this isn't always, right? This isn't always the case, but typically there are a sort of like there is some sort of relationship, right? Whether it be super strong or super light in some cases, but you know, there is some sort of relationship between how Sony PR and the devs may feel about a particular game releasing, and that's mainly seen via how long the embargo is into release, right? So for example, The Last of Us Part 2 got a week before it, like the embargo lifted a week before the game came out, right? And typically when you have an embargo lift that is closer to release date, that may be because they're trying to not get the word out on said review so close to release as to not sway people from taking back their pre-order or taking back their intentions on buying the game because of the score that they are potentially favoring people to see a week before the game comes out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Kind of, sort of? Yeah. Like, and it's not like an overall like rule. And there's plenty of exceptions, right? There's plenty of exceptions. I'm not saying this thing is concrete, right? But it is a little bit spooky.
Of course.
That's so that's where I'm at. So this news definitely will affect my predictions on the Metascore. You know what I'm saying?
I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I'm guessing like mid 80s. Like just
that's yeah.
just like a shot in the dark.
Like so we can talk a little bit about how I'm feeling about, you know, the overall like score and everything. I don't see a future where this game is viewed at lesser than Days Gone.
Absolutely.
Pre-patch, right? Like because of course everyone knows Days Gone before the game came out, and the version that reviewers got for Days Gone is a vastly different game than the game that we got on day 1, and even more vastly different than the game was a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to a month after when they did all those patches to Days Gone, right? So you know, like that, like definitely you know, tampered his overall view from a more critical standpoint, right? But even with that critical score, like I just don't see Ghost of Tsushima being viewed lesser than Days Gone at that point, right?
Yeah, no.
You know, like I think I think eventually I will end up around the mid 80s. I think what you said as well. Like,
yeah.
I think the mid 80s sounds right. If it dips If it dips into the 70s, then I'll be a little bit more scared. But I mean, I could even see, right? Like, if the story is banging, right? Like, real good. Right? I could see it being a low 90. You know what I'm saying? Maybe a 90 to 92 range. I could see that at like, the absolute best.
Yeah, at the best. I don't know. It's just like, throughout the years, when I was younger, like, I would base all of my decisions off of Metacritic scores.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays, like, I don't care. Because...
Right.
Hot take. Kind of hot take. This is going to be a kind of hot take.
Give it to us.
A decent chunk of game journalists' opinions are absolutely worthless.
Oh, snap. Did y'all?
Yeah, it's just like...
Did y'all hear that?
Because, for example, GameSpot gave SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated a 2 out of 10.
Yeah, that one I saw this week, that was a bit ridiculous. Like, yeah. I see, like, if you're gonna give a game like a 1 to a 2, right? Like, that game, I think, has to be fundamentally broken on the basic complexes of what a game is. Yeah. Like, mechanically.
Like a Road to Hell Retribution kind of deal.
Exactly, yeah. And, like, as far as I've heard, I haven't played Battle for Bikini Bottom. You know, the seminal PS2 and GameCube classic, I believe.
Yeah, no.
I
loved it.
Like, I've heard, I didn't play it back then, haven't played the rehydrated version now. But what I just hear is that the rehydrated is, like, more of, like, a port and not necessarily, like, a remaster from what they were trying to get at. Like, I think, of course, it's up-res and stuff like that. But there's a lot of the old game in the rehydrated version. That I think brings it down. I think right.
No, the rehydrated is just it is the same game carried over, except you put like with a very nice coat of paint, but all of the same everything that made the first game great and everything that kind of brought it down is still in there.
Right.
It is a 1-to-1, not like a Final Fantasy remake. It is a 1-to-1.
Right. Okay.
Which is fine, but like stuff like that, like IGN, like IGN for a while was the butt of jokes on game journalism being kind of worthless. Like GameSpot had this funder, Cuphead. Like we all remember what happened with Cuphead.
That was the one where they were showing off mechanics, I think, or like in the review, I think.
They couldn't get past the tutorial.
Yeah, I'm like, yo.
It was really funny. It was really funny.
Look, I mean, like, I low key, I guess not low key, I guess high key, right? Like, I spew on the side of like, all right, like, you know, I have to assume that like if you're going to review for these sites, right? Like, you have to have some sort of gaming knowledge and gaming skill and just credibility as a whole, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think like every review site is like full of like, you know, just people that don't know what they're talking about. You know what I'm saying? Like, as a whole, like, I'm sure there's a few people, you know, that maybe are less comprehensive. There's plenty of things that I don't know about gaming. You know what I'm saying? Like, plenty. Like, I don't really understand the fundamentals of like a MOBA. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what makes a good MOBA from a bad MOBA because I just don't play MOBAs, you know what I'm saying? But that Cuphead thing was wild. That was wild.
It's just like I don't know. You should have in my opinion, you should have like a group of reviewers like in like one company. It's like this reviewers typically leans towards MOBAs. This one typically leans towards fighters. This one's a shooter guy. This one's a platformer, horror. Like, in order to broaden, it's like, like if you give me a MOBA, if you tell me to play like Diablo, I don't know what's going on. Like, I can't give a fair assessment on what makes the game fundamentally good. But the whole point of this like tangent is that Ghost of Tsushima seems like it'll be, especially if there are customizable difficulties.
Mm-hmm. Which there are.
Yeah, there are. Yeah. Like. It seems like I'm just not gonna care. I was like, the game is too hard. It's like, all right, the person who probably played it is bad.
I see what you mean. Right.
Yeah, it's like it's unforgiving. Like, oh, it's clunky. Is like, let me be the judge of that. Like, like I don't really care. Like, if I read a review and it's like, oh, the game is unforgiving, the game is too hard. It's like, oh, wow, do you need a game journalist mode? Like, do you need a baby mode?
Yeah, I mean,
just throw it out. So I don't really care about the Metacritic score as much as I used to, because who cares? Like, there are games out there that have 6 out of 10s on Metacritic that I like, that I really, really like.
Oh yeah.
There are games that I like Part 2, the most controversial game in recent memory, for a variety of reasons. It has a 95 on Metacritic, and if you watch the review, you'll see the score that I gave, which does not align with the Metacritic score. But then that's the whole thing. It's the subjectivity of what makes a good game to you. So, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not too worried about the Metacritic score for like one fundamental reason. Samurai are cool as hell, and I'm going to play the game regardless. Yeah,
like it takes a lot for me to look at a review score, right? Or just read a whole written piece on a review. If I'm really sold on the game, I'm buying. Like, I don't care what this game gets score-wise. Like, I'm still going to buy Ghost of Tsushima and play it. For, number one, obvious reasons, because I run this channel, duh, of course, right? Like, I want to be informed on major PlayStation games that come on to the platform, of course, you know. So I'm definitely not going to be swayed to not buy this game. But I'm always curious on Metacritic, just because I like to get an overall consensus of, like, what a game is viewed as critically as well as commercially. You know what I'm saying? Like, how the game does, like, sales-wise and stuff like that. I like to know the public consensus of just the player base and the overall common folk of the gaming industry, as well as the you know, critics of the industry. Right. You know,
like, what if
that's
what
like
if,
that's like my only thing.
Yeah. I was gonna say, is like, what if Part 2 got like a 60% on Metacritic?
I would definitely still play it, because like his last was Part 2. Yeah, but like that would be mad interesting, you know, like mad interesting for sure.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like me and you will, of course, be playing Ghost of Tsushima, and one of the big aspects of Ghost of Tsushima is the whole mantra of Ghost versus Samurai. Even though it's not necessarily versus, because you do, you know, have the ability. Like, it's not like it's you choose one side or the other. You know what I'm saying? And I believe we have talked about this on the show, I think. But if not, you know, they made it clear that, like, even though of their past with Infamous, how you can choose, you know, good or bad powers, whatever, it's not like that in Ghost of Tsushima. Like, it's more of like the Ghost branch is an additive thing as you're refining your samurai tactics that you've learned over the years. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're upgrading both at the same time, but the Ghost side is a new thing that you're kind of, sort of, I believe, what it seems like, self-teaching yourself and just analyzing different things off of, like, how in the video I uploaded on Friday, we talked about the stances, and like one of the stances called the water stance, which is useful for enemies that have shields. It said that Jin teaches himself that water stance to better be prepared for enemies that use shields and to be able to get openings to counter them. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it sounds like you'll be upgrading both sides and will be able to utilize both sides at the same time. Right. You know what I'm saying? It's not one or the other. But I did kind of want to do some, you know, research, you know, as I'm chilling here in my room, quarantined up. You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
You know?
Yeah.
Window closed. All the good stuff. I'll never go with that. But, but I want to, you know, from a historical standpoint, we're going to look at 3 different sections, right? One of them being samurai weaponry and tactics from pre-Mongol invasion. So how they are traditionally, right? So then how the Mongolians are, that's not the right word. We talked about this. How the Mongols are from an historical standpoint, as well as possibly more or less a gameplay perspective as well. because we don't really get a lot of detail in the state of play about what the enemies are using against you, because I mean, it's about you, right? So like, totally understand that. So we don't get a good grasp of like how they are in the game, but we got to assume that it's pretty similar. I'm assuming what I'm saying to the more historical standpoint, and then we'll look at samurai post invasion, and we'll all see how it all kind of melts together, because it's quite interesting, right?
Right.
So starting off here, I guess I'll read the weaponry and tactics of the samurai pre-invasion, and you can go post or whatever.
Sure.
We'll see. But samurai weaponry and tactics. Dang, I cannot talk today, I swear. Pre-Mongol invasion, a big aspect of them was that they used to have this tachi / Chakota style of blades, and so these are similar to a katana, kind of, sort of, not really, because they're a straight blade, right? So they're more of like what you envision like a sword would be, right? And they are blades, of course, with one side having that edge for slicing and stuff like that, and they primarily offer a lot of thrusting style of attack, so more of like a shoving of the sword into a homie in combat. However, this proved vastly ineffective against the Mongols due to their armor being stronger, causing the swords to break and chip. And so another thing that we will get into in this whole discussion is that the Mongols, while not all of them were armored, the ones that were armored, the like heavy infantrymen, they had a lot of very highly resilient armor on them,
right?
Which like caused the samurai Chakota and Tachi type of style blades and swords to not be as effective. But a big thing we will talk about as well is, of course, the Bushido code. Which, what, samurai? I'm gonna just throw it. Why did I call you samurai? Wow, interesting.
I am the samurai.
I don't want to go. Yeah, I guess you're damn. Huh? I guess you're samurai. All right.
Cool.
Samurai. You know what? I'm gonna let you read the Bushido code.
All right. Bet. The Bushido code is when the samurai army set out to fight according to their code. A warrior would step out, announce his name and lineage, and prepare for one-on-one combat with a foe. Typically, it's like the way that I always remember the code of honor. It's like that. It's their code of honor. It's their kind of how a knight has their code of honor. Like the Bushido code is what the samurai would adhere themselves to in order to stay honorable amongst themselves and each other. And like they're honored towards like for their own, and they're honored towards their towards the emperor. Like Oh, you go.
No, I mean, by lineage, I did want to ask you that. Is that like the country that they derive from? Is it like the family name that they are holding?
Lineage, like, to the extent of my knowledge, I believe the lineage is who they serve.
Okay.
Because a samurai's identity is based on who they serve, not their own individual identity as much as like the emperor that they defend, because that's what the whole Bushido code is centered around, is the emperor. You are protecting the emperor, you serve the emperor, and a failure to do so is dishonorable by death. So you have to commit like the seppuku. So in order to preserve your honor.
Oh, that's like that by suicide?
Yeah, it's where you stab yourself in the stomach, disembowel yourself, and one of your a fellow samurai decapitates you to spare you pain, but it is an honorable way to die.
God.
You take your own hand in kind of a form of redemption for the emperor. And a samurai with no emperor, with no leader, is a ronin. So these ronin are self-serving, and on their own path, which is, I believe, the movie, like, what was it, like 57 Ronin?
I was thinking of Endgame.
Well, also Hawkeye. Also
Yeah,
Hawkeye.
yeah, I know that's completely probably not 100% accurate. You know what I'm saying? Accurate.
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 I saw a lot of y'all laughing at that video the other day. You know what I'm saying? Shout
Yeah.
shout out to that. But another thing that was interesting too is that they fought in small groups, right? But while fighting in small groups, they were also led by a skilled archer. So amongst the small groups, they would all still fight for themselves and not really as a team, if that makes sense. So like they'd have like, you know, a group, but they wouldn't fight as a group, you know.
Right.
They were still definitely much for themselves, not in like a selfish way, but just like to fight just 1v1. Like that's how they would do it, you know.
Right. Like samurai are very like self-skill based. Like they're not not us as a collective, but my own individual skill is greater than the enemy.
Yes.
So
precisely.
It's very competitive.
Right.
Like the longbow, which the archers would typically use, the Yumi longbow, was popular during the feudal Japan era. Like the archer, like they would defend the archer, and the archer would, like, you know, shoot up in the air to attack the Mongols or the enemy that they were facing, in order to allow like separation so that the samurai could attack individually.
Right.
Like a divide and conquer kind of act. At least to the extent of my knowledge.
Yeah, but which like definitely like when you read it and you think about it, like on paper, I feel like that sounds effective. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's definitely tactical. Like
Definitely.
Because the armor used in feudal Japan was oriented to be defensive against swords, but not pierces.
Right.
Like it can take a slash, but if something sharp attacks it head on, like as a piercing action, it would penetrate the armor, because there are different kinds of durability. And since they're typically fighting against swords, an arrow would pierce whatever they were wearing and kill them or incapacitate them.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Definitely. Interesting stuff. And the last thing that was like that I wanted to note down about the Japanese skilled fighters was that they use shields, but only as walls to protect the archer in the group. So they never really had like shields that they would carry for themselves in combat. They would only have shields like for that skilled archer in their small group, which was a stark contrast, you know, with of course the Mongolian Empire and their weaponry and tactics. And so this next section, you can, I guess, kind of view it as what they'll probably be wielding in the game. We don't have a lot of details on like how that differs in the gameplay. There are some instances where they are holding shields and having like different shaped bows and swords and stuff like that, but it sounds pretty similar to what we're about to describe here. So super similar. But one thing that I just wanted to make clear, pretty much sure, which is again pretty obvious here, but they don't have a Bushido code, right? So the Mongols were not familiar with the code. So when a lone samurai stepped forward to challenge them, the Mongols would simply attack him in mass, much like ants swarming a beetle. That's a direct quote from a website. So they would just pummel the dude.
Makes
which
sense.
is wild. Yeah.
It's
because
sorry.
sorry.
You go.
Sir, please, I implore. Go ahead.
All right. It's a direct contrast. Like it's almost like a war of attrition that the Mongols had strength in numbers. Like, would you rather have like? You remember the Area 51 raid where it's like they can't stop all of us? It's like that.
I can't. I really hope that like in our kids' textbooks, you know,
They talk about it.
I just want like at least like
a paragraph.
at least a paragraph. I don't need a full chapter, but like
Yeah.
just that hey, there was once a raid that was led by the public to invade Area 51.
Yeah, we had the Monster energy drinkers. We had the weebs.
Mm-hmm.
We had the Redditors, like all of them.
Yes.
Had the fodder.
All of internet's most distinct factions.
Yeah.
Together, you know.
It's like that. That's how the Mongols operated. it's like how many people can we throw at them before they die?
It's like that.
Yeah. Or when have you seen the videos where a wasp will kill a bee, and then the hive attacks the wasp until it dies?
Those are terrifying.
Yeah, those are horrible. It's like that. Like the Mongols are the bees, and the samurai are the wasps. They can take out a few.
Dude,
there's a lot of bees though.
Nature is terrifying.
Nature is terrifying. Nature's metal.
I don't want to be swarmed with anything, to be honest. I mean, there's a few things I could be swarmed with, you know, in like a pleasant standpoint, but not a visceral standpoint.
Yeah, no. Swarm me with direct deposit payments, please.
Swarm me with true love. You feel me?
I feel you.
Understanding. Consideration. You know?
Respect. Road to romance.
Road to romance.
But it's like I'm super interested in seeing like how because Jin's whole thing is like adaptation.
Right.
Like his skill set is not just primarily in his skill with a sword, but his ability, like you said, like he taught himself the what was the form? The way of water?
Oh, the water stance.
Yeah,
yes.
The water stance. He was able to teach himself an enemy stance or a foreign stance in order to allow easier forms of combat. And so it'd be interesting to see what he does in order to combat the Mongols with their own strategies. Yeah,
it is really interesting, you know, how they're melding in like real history of how the Japanese changed with the Mongol invasion, and like how their fighting tactics actually did adapt and change overall, which birthed the katana sword as well, which we'll talk about in a little bit too. But there's also, just quick side tangent on the stances, there's also two different other stances that we haven't gotten detailed, but judging off of some things that we've seen in the state of play, I think the other two are going to be enemies that have like long spears and are trying to attack at like a distance, but like that like medium distance where they have reach with the spear. And the other stance I think is going to be good with like blocking bow and arrows.
Right.
And arrows that are incoming to you, I think, is what the other ones are for, but who knows. The Mongols also had poison tipped arrows and armor piercing arrows as well, which the wow, I forgot the word, samurai did not have those things. But in the state of play trailer, we do see them having different arrow types, which could be derived from the Mongols in the game. They had a few other things, like a catapult that launched explosive shells, which is terrifying. Damn. And then tell us a bit more about the short bow.
The short bow is twice the range of the samurai longbows, but like the samurai were very stubborn in their code, because that, which is the center conflict in like Jin's interpersonal conflict on the way of like adhering to the Bushido code. It's they didn't budge very much at all, because any form of altering the code was almost sacrilegious.
Right.
It was their way of life. So even though there were superior means of attack, they stayed with what they knew and what they trusted, despite being at a mechanical and numerical disadvantage.
Definitely. And definitely numerical, because the Mongolians fought in really big groups. like they there was a lot of them. A lot. You know, a whole squad, if you will, a whole
Many
platoon.
squads. Where are we dropping? Tsushima.
Facts. They were all like, "Hey, all 100 of us, let's get on this. Let's go to Tsushima." Definitely. But what I really hope to see as well in the game is that, at least in the real historical standpoint, the Mongols were given orders via drum beats and gong clashes. So like, I guess they had like certain beats that meant like push forward. I don't know. It honestly reminds me of Patapon. Do you know the game Patapon?
I'm not familiar.
So Patapon was a game on PlayStation. I think there's 3 Patapons as a whole, I believe. But essentially, it's a rhythm game where you have to, be able to do the rhythm prompts in the game to give orders to your army. And so I think that's directly like what it's talking about here in a way, is that like they were given orders via drum beats and gong clashes and ways to overall like control and command the engagement,
Right.
Which I think is gonna be terrifying, like to hear in game.
Studying
hear,
it is gonna be cool.
Huh? Wait, what?
Studying it, like it's like, oh, I hear that, which means they're falling back, which means I push forward, or they're pushing forward, which means go to stealth.
Right, yeah. It's a good point. Yeah, even that, super cool stuff. Who knows if they'll do it? Who knows? But again, like we said before, they wielded shields on most warriors, so they were able to utilize shields on vastly, as opposed to just the shields being used on the side of the Japanese, which was to mainly block the archers and stuff like that. So definitely more useful in that standpoint as well. But there was also a discrepancy I found as well, where most of the Japanese in combat wore pretty good armor, but the Mongols had significantly better armor, especially for those that were heavy infantry. Like they made a distinction between like the average Mongol soldier versus like the brooding, like heavier set, bigger in stature Mongols, which you would think you would want to be the opposite, but I digress. I don't know. That is what it is. But due to the Mongol invasion, right? They specifically kind of like made this change leading up to the second Mongol invasion, which happened a few years after the first one. And with the natives of Tsushima that fought as samurai, they were finding that like we said before, their swords that they used before were not as effective against the Mongols, and they needed to adapt and make them better, right? So this, of course, is the rise of the katana, which I'll let the homie Arachnite read.
So, Japanese swordsmith began experimenting with other sword designs, leading to the advent of the modern-day katana. Using high-carbon steel and differential heat treatment, swordsmiths were able to create katanas with a superior level of strength compared to the tachi and the chokuro. Upon testing the new design on the battlefield, Japanese samurai warriors found the katana to be highly effective at cutting through armor. The katana also shifted the tides of the war in favor with Japan because of its emphasis on quick drawing. Until then, all Japanese swords were worn with the cutting edge facing down. The katana, however, was worn with the cutting edge facing up. This allowed for samurai warriors to draw it more quickly, making the katana an excellent weapon for use in close quarter combat, which is actually really cool. Like when you pay attention to details like that, like Samurai Jack put a lot of emphasis on studying Bushido and samurai tactics, and
Right.
most like all of Jack's attacks swing up.
Oh, that's because it's put away with the edge facing up.
Yeah.
Right. That's
Because the alternative was facing down, so you'd have to bring the sword up and slash it down instead of drawing it from your waist and slashing up immediately, putting yourself at an advantage with a quicker attack speed. Because
it definitely makes no, it definitely makes sense because like even like if you do it with your own motion, like if you have it facing down, there's an extra step in flipping that sword to be able to actually do any damage,
right?
And get on the edge you want it. But if it's just facing up, you do a quick like you can see even with the arm movements, and we see it in the gameplay as well for the game. Like you can tell that they're able to do those fast movements with not only the weight of the sword, or I guess weight of the katana, you know what I'm saying, but also the way it's edges facing up instead of down.
Like in training, like stuff like that, we practiced, like I personally have like experience like with like fighting with stuff like that, like very very limited experience, but I do practice martial arts, or at least I did before all this stuff started, like, and so we practiced with like foam swords on drawing and countering, and like wooden swords once you got up to that level. It's like if you got hit, that's how it happened. So you had to practice like defensive statures and like attacking up and countering up because it was faster.
Man, I'm trying to think if I have any skill in like weapon. Like if I ever done anything. I don't think I have. I mean, I've shot a gun before, but that's entirely different. Yeah, no, I have no experience in melee combat.
Yeah, it's like the Mongols came in, and it's like, oh, like what do you have? And Jim just pulls out like a gat.
He's like, oh, like here's my 22. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's like, oh, who will win? a bunch of swords or a gun.
oh, this hammer, it's Mjolnir, just some light work.
Yeah, no, it's super, like stuff like that is really cool. Like once you get your hands on it, like not a gun but a sword. Like the swords, like just messing with it, because the more practice you get, like I remember I'd only done it a few times, just like with wooden swords on drawing and countering and blocking. Like you get progressively better, like the more you do it, like every time you get hit, it's like, okay, practice that. So it's really cool to see gameplay of the game, like like someone who's very very fluid with a sword, like just slash their enemies.
Definitely. I would like to one day learn how to use a bow.
Like
I just think bows are cool.
Archery is a lot of fun. Like
I bet.
Your shoulders will be sore as hell the next day though.
Oh, I bet, absolutely. And my shoulders already suck now.
Oh yeah, I feel that, just sitting down all day, like not doing anything. Like I practiced archery when I was younger. Like it's a lot of fun, like swordsmanship, archery, like stuff like that. It's definitely going to be interesting seeing these weapons in the game, like variations of weapons or what you can use. Like I know, like it's definitely not going to be in the game, but Eskrima, which is that's a very cool martial art. Like I believe, like I always just call them Eskrima. I believe they have a more formal name, but Eskrima sticks are a lot of fun to use. Like just as a side note, like those hurt though. Like practicing with those, like you have to counter, or you're gonna get bopped in the head with a wooden stick.
Oh man, I feel like I'm more of a dagger type of individual.
Daggers are cool. Daggers are easier to counter though.
Well, you hate to see it.
Yeah, like you hate to see it. That's why, like, sometimes I come into work with like a bruised up nose or like a black eye, and it's like, yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
I want.
Like, yeah, like what, like stun.
I was out here fending off the Mongol invasion.
Yeah, I was out here getting thrown around. I was like, oh yeah, how'd the fight go? I don't want to talk about it.
You know, it just be like that.
It really do be like that. I'd limp.
You hate to see it.
You truly hate to see it.
But
what you love to see is the gameplay.
We do. So going into this one, that was our little historical look back at how the Mongols had their weaponry and the samurai had theirs, right? But now we're going to a little bit of gameplay. There's not a lot on the Mongols because there's way more to talk about in terms of samurai and the ghost parts of that whole side. But with the Mongols, they seem to have a very similar arsenal as described in the historical section, where they seem to be equipped with heavy armor, especially those heavy infantry. Not many of the regular infantry have armor. They also seem to have masses of infantrymen to provide bigger and overall better advances in battles. They have hand-carried shields as well in the gameplay, long spears, and they seemingly only have short bows, I think we'll only experience longbows as a samurai, right, as that is the traditional place where the longbows are coming from in this conflict. So I didn't see any Mongols with longbows. Could be wrong on that point, but they seem to only have short bows. So I guess as I was doing research, I did boil it down to a main thesis, and observation, if you will. Is that the change in arsenal from samurai to ghost seems to be that the ghost embodies what makes the Mongols superior over the samurai. Essentially, is what I've kind of broken down,
Yeah.
as to what makes the ghost truly different. But before we get to the ghost, tell me about some samurai weapons in the game that has been seen in gameplay.
So we have the half bow with regular or flaming arrows.
Probably more arrow types as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's gonna be poison too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Smoke arrow. Give me the dynamite arrows from part 2.
Ooh. Oh yeah.
The ghost is, I don't know. The ghost. Is that a Mongol? Is that a Mongol art or the ghost would lead me to believe it's a form of ninjutsu.
So so as far as I'm aware, the ghost side is heavily influenced by what will become ninjas. Yeah, definitely. But at least in game, what I've seen is that they Jin will take a lot of the tactics of the samurai and take a lot of tactics of the Mongols and their equipment, especially with explosives and stuff like that, and all that good stuff, and there being a short bow as well on the ghost gameplay, and all that. It seems like the ghost mainly is taking aspects of the Mongol side, but
to develop aspects of ninjutsu.
Yeah.
Fun fact: ninjutsu is actually an umbrella term for a variety of different arts, not one singular art. Word.
Interesting.
There are a lot of forms and arts in ninjutsu that encapsulate it. It is an umbrella term. Ninjutsu is the study and application of multiple arts in order to be optimized in infiltration and information gathering and all that. It's not just crawling on rooftops kind of deal and
right,
shurikens.
Right. And we'll get to the last point, at the very end of this. Maybe there's probably a bigger discussion there for sure. But how at least I'm reading into it is that all of the elements that make the ghosts different than the traditional way of fighting is directly going against the Bushido code in a lot of different ways. Yeah, for sure.
We just mentioned the half bow, the samurai oriented armor is definitely beefier. It's designed to endure more damage.
Right.
Because that's how the samurai operated. It was 1v1s, and you were designed to take a beating because you only had your sword with you.
Yeah. Definitely.
it was dishonorable and cowardly to use any other forms of combat, to the extent of my knowledge, for just individual samurai.
Right.
And
right.
that limited arsenal is like, it might be what we saw because of character progress at the time, or what we mentioned about the Bushido code. Like, what you see is what you get. You have beefy armor, you get a sword, and your own skill to see if you can win fights just using what is ordained by the Bushido code.
Yeah, definitely. Because the devs really did make it clear that, like, hey, like, when you start the game, you are a samurai. It's not like you're starting from zero. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, Jin has fought before. Jin is a fighter. Like, Jin is a samurai when you start the game, right? But judging off when they also talked about in that same tone that, like, hey, you don't pick one side or the other. Like, you have both. You utilize both. There's 2 upgrade trees as well in the game. Like, you are upgrading both sides of yourself, even though Ghost starts at 0 and Samurai doesn't start at 0. I assume there's going to be more elements to the Samurai side as you progress throughout the game.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's just my assumption, you know,
like,
just based on what they said. And that's kind of like directly what they said, to be fair, too. So.
What would be cool is, like, if you saw, like, the ghost or the samurai tree is like half of the ghost tree. It's like, oh yeah, you have a very limited, you have like no wiggle room. Like, you gotta just rush in and hope you can counter everybody.
Right.
And like, I'm excited to see the trophy list.
Oh yeah, bro.
Like, I want to see if there's like a samurai only trophy. It's like, you know, like the Bushido code kind of deal. It's like a silver or gold trophy. You finish the whole game without upgrading anything on the ghost tree.
Interesting. Like, what if it's called, like, the code or whatever, or like,
yeah,
the Bushido code straight up as the
Yeah.
name of the trophy. Yeah, it's a good point.
like I depending on how I enjoy my first like blind playthrough, like, I'd be very, very interested to see. It's like, can I do the game just as a samurai? Can I do the game just as a ghost?
Right.
But like, I don't know, like, challenges like that are always a lot of fun. Like, seeing what the devs might have done. It's like, oh yeah, you can do this. You don't have to, but you can if you want to.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
yeah, like, I would love to try something like that. Like, in part 2, like, right now I'm doing a melee only survivor run and it sucks.
I was gonna ask, oh really, like, how's that going? And you just answered the question. Like, did you have to ask?
It is fight night every night.
Damn.
It's fight morning, it's fight afternoon, it's fight brunch. It's just fight night all the time. Is fun. But I'd love to do something like that in Ghost, like, just to see, like, how much I can, like, mess around with what the devs have put in.
Yeah, definitely. Well, speaking of that, let's go into kind of like the last section of this good old episode 3, Ghost of Tsushima, Road to Ghost of Tsushima. You know, what does the Ghost have that's different than the Samurai side, right? So one thing that I did notice, it wasn't explicitly said, but I did take note of it, is that they seem to have a sleeker and more limited armor set, which I assume is for better mobility.
Yes.
And just like getting around and stuff like that. If you like even look at, you know, in the state of play gameplay, we have the first bit, which is more of the honorable way of fighting and stuff like that, and he has a lot of like a ton of armor, you know what I'm saying, like super beefy, not as beefy as what the armor would have been
For stylistic reasons.
Yeah, that we talked about on last week's episode. But it is super sleek, and I think it looks a lot better as the Ghost, you know, armor, but that's just me. But they also have things that, you know, this is where we see this first like departure in terms of like how these tactics are going very much away from the Bushido code, right? And that is having these throwables in the game, which include like wind chimes and firecrackers for distractions or disorienting purposes against the enemy, you know, which like typically in the code you would want to let your enemy be known that, yo, I'm here, I'm pulling up, and I'm challenging you to a 1v1, you know. But using these throwables, you're able to do like, you know, silent assassinations and like, you know, the enemy might not be aware that you're there, you know.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
It's like I'm really excited, and I actually made a joke about this on the PlayStation Source Discord. Link in the description.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. About game, like what I was like, oh yeah, what makes a good game? And I have two things that I am excited, like two things that I have found that I make games more enjoyable and a lot more fun, in my opinion.
What we got?
Number one, waifus.
Waifus?
Yes. Final Fantasy VII is Waifu City. That is why it's my game of the year.
Man, I asked that question like with like a question slant, because really I was not expecting you to go there. But
no, like this is a joke. Like this is a joke. But like the something like this whole bit. It's a bit. It's a joke. But like things that I find fun, like this next part is actually something I find fun that you can't always put in games. But if it is in the game, it's a lot of fun for me to use, and it's a grapple hook. Every game, tell me one game that wouldn't be better with a grappling hook. One game. I want you to lie to me and tell me a game.
One game. Because, like, the first thing I thought about was Need for Speed. I'm like, no, you're lying, Kevin.
Like, a grapple hook and, like, fire. Yeah, fire it and then drift with it and keep going.
Oh, my God. Damn, that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Grappling hooks are always fun. Final Fantasy VII also has a grappling hook.
That, and then plus God of War 2, we just played it on the channel. That has like a similar type of grappling hook type thing in it as well, and that is tremendously fun.
Grappling hooks are so cool. It's fun. Like,
definitely.
Titanfall 2, you can wall run, grapple hook. Yeah.
Oh my God, yes. Yes.
FF7, yeah. Most, like, not every good game has a grappling hook. But every game with a grappling hook is a good game.
Wow. Tweet that.
Yeah, I'll play. If a game is like, yo, this has a cool grappling hook, I'll check it out.
Tweet that. that is pin tweet worthy. Man, you love to see it.
Put more grappling hooks in games. Sorry, you go.
That's also one of the things that the Ghost has. So I see that you know. Mill that in there.
Yeah,
you know
I'm excited about it.
Yeah, which I don't think. Well, at least we like didn't see it be used in the samurai side, but who knows? Maybe the grappling hooks, maybe if it's used for like getting to a certain area purposes, maybe the code will let them do it. But who knows? I don't know.
I will change the code.
Damn. Adapt.
Yeah, I will adapt the code for a grappling hook.
In the Ghost gameplay, we do get a good look at the longbow as well, which it was kind of weird because with the samurai side of the gameplay, I believe it just had the half bow, and then the Ghost was able to use the longbow or the half bow. So I'm not sure if like it's a thing where like you start off with the longbow and then, you know, because the samurai gameplay was taken maybe after you achieve some things with the Ghost side, that he was using the half bow. I'm not sure what the deal is right there. That one was a little bit confusing, but on the Ghost side, I did take note of like the longbow was able to equip and fire heavy arrows as well as other types of arrows that they did not use in the gameplay. So there seems to be a variety of different arrow sets that you can have, whether it's samurai or Ghost, but that is left to be determined. Smoke bombs were also in the game on the Ghost side. This makes sense because, you know, it involves being sneaky, and used for getaways and unseen attacks, which again go against the good old Bushido code, you know. And probably my favorite aspect of the Ghost gameplay was the kunai. Did you see these in the gameplay?
Yes, yeah, I did.
The like throwing knife type things?
Yeah, those are cool.
Bro, those look really satisfying. Those look super fun. you know. And I think that's probably like maybe where the origins of like the ninja stars coming to be. I don't know like how serious the ninja stars were in like real life. Like I don't know if those were actually things that they use, or that's just like a glorified thing that media made up about ninjas. I don't know. You know,
the what? I'm sorry.
The ninja stars.
Oh, the shuriken.
Oh, shuriken.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, those like I don't know if like those were, you know, off of the kunai, and like the kunai ended up being the shuriken. You know what I'm saying? I don't know a lot about anything. Can I just put that out?
I believe the shuriken were used in for ninjutsu. It's its own art, like the art of like throwing knives or something like that. I don't remember particularly, but I do remember it being its own art, because the ability to silently like throw something and kill someone with it was invaluable.
That sounds difficult.
It does sound difficult.
Like,
because you have to aim it, and you have to throw it hard enough, and you have to throw it quietly.
that sounds so challenging. Like, shout out to the Tomahawk. You know what I'm saying? Black Ops 1 Tomahawks.
Shout out to that. I got hit with those so many tiys. They get nothing from me.
What was that one snowy map?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Where you spawn and you all you can do is run straight and throw a tomahawk, and
get someone.
There's a good chance you will get a hit.
I remember exactly what you're talking about.
What's that map called in Black Ops 1? Oh man, it's gonna kill me. Let me know in the comment section. Let us know. It's like it's not sub base, because that's Modern Warfare 2 snow map. Oh, what array? No, that's a different Black Ops 1 map.
I know I know what you're talking about. I can't remember though, but I know what you're talking about. It's just like throwing stars. No, it's just like throwing stars and stuff like that. Like, super cool. Batman uses them. The Batarang.
Facts. He does.
It's just like it's supposed to be like even in like combat, which for ninja, it's if you get in active combat, you're pretty much dead. Yeah, your only option is to get away. Like, there was hand to hand, but that was like, oh, take down. Like, it was very. It's like a jujitsu oriented, just like takedowns. Like, take them down, kill them quiet, and keep going. Like, they wore very light, like almost just like cloth for like just for armor, for lack of a better phrase. So that's probably what Jin's doing with the sleeker limited armor. It's because the heavier the armor, the louder you'll be, and the less you can like jump around and move around, and the more difficult it is. So if you play very stealthy, if you get in combat, that's probably why you have a smoke bomb, and it's why you have the blades and the grapple hook, is for you to get away.
Right. That's
like, you throw a firecracker, it disorients them, smoke bomb, go. Those are your only options, because a sword will just cut right through you.
Yeah, which that's something that they have talked about a lot, is that like, even though there are different, you know, ways to play the game in terms of like normal, difficulty, hard, or easy, whatever, you will be able to kill Mongols in the same amount of hits, as well as the Mongols will be able to kill you in the same amount of hits, no matter what difficulty you're playing on.
Right.
You know, because they wanted like to make sure that like the combat and the katana like means something, you know, and it doesn't get weaker whichever way you want to play. And the way that it gets harder is just how the enemy AI behaves. Maybe you get less resources too, I don't know, but
it's not that they become sponges. It's a 1-for-1 kind of deal. If they die in 2 hits, you die in 2 hits.
Right.
They die in 1 hit, you die in 1 hit. Like, which like I'd be down to play something like that, just like a 1-hit death kind of deal.
Definitely.
Like, catch me just being a ghost and hiding the entire time.
Bro, if it was like 2 hits or 1 hit, I would definitely die in 1 hit. Can I say that?
I like that. That would be very, very tough. Like, but like, I like stuff like that.
I'm built like a sponge in the first place, so like.
Same.
And I chose to just end off this whole breakdown with a little quote here by your boy. I just wrote this, right? All in all, Ghost weapons and tactics do away with the Bushido code to overpower the Mongols who don't care for the code itself, as well as making them a more powerful... Wait. Who don't care for the code itself. In doing so, that makes them a more powerful force overall, because they're not tied to the Bushido code. The way of the Ghost had to let go of the code to even the playing field and change the samurai forever. That has been my tech talk.
I dig it. Like the samurai, like the code, like the only thing that really changed with the code, I feel, is just the katana for a while.
Like, wasn't it like also like their whole like fighting style changed too, or did I just completely get that wrong?
Again, my knowledge on feudal Japan and samurai history is very, very limited. Like, right. I could be wrong. I definitely could be wrong. But it to the extent of my understanding, the Bushido code was very strict for a while. Like fighting stances, like the stances don't. They played around the stances. The stances were made for the Bushido, not the Bushido was made for the stances. Like because fighting style doesn't really matter too extensively, like as long as you are 1v1ing, like fighting the way that you were trained to. Is there are different stances in order to fight in a certain way, and just to master what you know.
Right.
So I like, again, this is just from my realm of knowledge, is that things didn't really change significantly with the code, just how the weapons were oriented, which is like a different sword to cut down armor.
There we have it. I'm excited for this game though.
Yes, oh my. I'm very, very excited.
I'm excited. I think it's gonna be cool. And then what we got next week? Next week we're talking about the open world of Ghost of Tsushima. You know what I'm saying? From all the foxes and the birds, some charms that you'll get. Do you know what what's it called? Imura Shrine, I think is what it's called. You will learn next week. But until then, where can people find you, Arachnite? Where can people find you?
I am on the PlayStation Source Discord under the same name. I hype it up every week. It's a fun Discord. I love hopping on, seeing everybody talk about like whatever game it is of the day. Lately, it's always been The Last of Us, but like people sharing clips, screenshots, all that good stuff. I love seeing it. I love hearing it. Hit me up there. I love talking to the community about video games. You can find me on Twitter at Orly_Macias, where I talk about video games, comic books, all that good stuff. Hit me up, talk to me about whatever, share your screenshots, ask any questions. I love to talk to the people. I love to talk to the community about this kind of thing, because this is the only place I can really nerd out about this stuff. I don't really get to do that very often without getting made fun of.
It's true.
So you want a place to vent and talk about nerd shit? Here's the place to go.
And of course, that will be linked in the description, as well as links to our Twitter. I almost forgot. As well as an anchor link to listen to our long form content in podcast format. That, of course, being Road to Part 2, as well as Road to Ghost of Tsushima, this very show that you are listening to right now. Like if you've enjoyed it, as well as stay subscribed to PlayStation Source to keep up with the latest and greatest in PlayStation. Thank you for watching, and as always, greatness awaits. Rip and tear. Whether you're in Seattle or the island of Tsushima, rip and tear, baby.
Until it's done.
Fire.